right, everybody, welcome to the November Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting. I will call the meeting to order. Will staff please call the roll?
Sure. Tomas Delgado.
Here.
Madeline Garbas. Maddie said she's going to be a little bit late. Stacy Gloss.
Present.
Andrew Stump.
Here.
Morgan White.
Here.
Grace Wilkin.
Here.
Jessica Lemkel. Now, Jessica is emailing me trying to get on, so I will work on figuring out how we can get her on. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, I didn't have her name as a member. I apologize for that, Jessica.
No worries.
All
Okay,
good.
she's new.
Hi.
Hey, Jessica,
back.
we're doing roll, so you're the last one, so I'll read it again. Jessica Lemkel.
No, I heard it because I was the viewer, because I
Just say-
used the link from the agenda. Yeah.
Just say here.
Up here. Yeah. Mhm.
Perfect. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, in your agenda packets this evening, can everybody hear me okay? I just still want to make sure I had some. Perfect, thank you. In everybody's packet, you will have received the minutes from the last meeting that we held. Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
You should probably clarify there's two sets of minutes.
Are there two?
Right. I move to approve the minutes from September 1, 2020 and October 6, 2020.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Is there a second? Thank you, Grace. Any discussion or changes needed? Not hearing any, will staff please call the roll for a vote?
Tomas Delgado.
Yes.
Madeline Garbaz. Stacy Gloss.
Yes.
Andrew Stump.
Yes.
Morgan White.
Yes.
Grace Wilkin.
Yes.
Jessica Lemkel.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes. Are there any additions or are there any proposals for additions to the agenda or any changes this evening?
I have a few things that I would like to report on in that commissioner's report, if that's an acceptable time to propose it, or maybe we need to wait until the discussion about how items get on the agenda. I'm still not clear on that. But if allowed, I would like to take that same amount of time to talk about a few things.
Do you have a proposal to add an agenda item, and specifically what would that be?
I think it wouldn't really require a new agenda item necessarily, just if I could speak in that same agenda item on more than just the Green Team Summit that's listed. There's also some other workshop that I attended that I would report on, and some updates about food waste composting.
So that would be a request to add in some additional workshop items and some announcements about food waste composting to the commissioner's report. Is that correct?
Yes, just within that same agenda item.
Okay. I think that that would be the motion. So I will take that kind of as a motion. Is there a second to include additional items about additional workshops and composting to the commissioner's report?
Second that.
Thank you, Andy. Any discussion? Or questions? Not hearing any, we will just go ahead and call a roll call vote for that addition to the time, since it may take a few extra minutes. Scott?
Tomas Delgado.
Yes.
Madeline Garbaz. Stacy Gloss.
Yes.
Andrew Stump.
Yes.
Morgan White.
Yes.
Grace Wilkin.
Yes.
Jessica Lemkel.
Yes.
That passes. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question about the agenda?
Sure.
Since we have a new member, is that something that will be covered in one of these items, or can we do intros? Where would that fit? Is that going to happen?
I think. Thank you very much.
I think that would be great, especially being another person who came in the middle of the
Yeah.
didn't do introductions. I think that would be great.
Nope, you're totally right, guys. I think because we've
Okay.
moved it around this meeting a couple of times and settled on this date, and had a couple different versions of the agenda laying around, I think that we just accidentally missed a welcome to our newest member. So I would like to just take a moment to formally recognize Jessica Lemkool as our newest member of the Sustainability Advisory Commission. Everybody, please a warm welcome for Jessica. Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself and just say a little bit about you?
Hi, I'm Jess Lemkool. I've been an educator for like 12 years, and I'm just wanting to do more for our most valuable, amazing, beautiful asset, our Earth, and I'm excited to be here. It's pretty much the gist of it. So nice to see you all.
Great, welcome. Hello. Typically, we don't usually do a whole go around of introductions. Would anybody want to do some introductions? Okay, all right. So before we go ahead and do those introductions, since we do have a couple of attendees on the call tonight, I'm just gonna check the agenda and see. Okay, so we have some time for public input. So what I just will propose to do is just for us do the introductions after we take public input this evening.
Sounds good.
All right. I see that there are a few attendees in the meeting at this time. Now is the time for public input for the meeting. Please limit public input to about 4 minutes per the electronic meetings rules that are in place currently by the City of Urbana. If you would like to be recognized, to be called on for public input, please use at the bottom of your screen, there should be a way for you to raise your hand. Please raise your hand and I will call on you in the order of which your hand is raised. Minnie, I see that you've joined this evening. I'm just wondering if you would like to address in some way.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Glad to be
Okay.
here and glad to meet you, Jessica. Get some good work done, girl.
Minnie, thank you for joining this evening. Apologies if I put you on the spot there. All right, so let's just do a quick go around for introductions. I'll call on Andy if you'd like to just introduce yourself.
I'm Andrew Stumpf. I'm a geologist at the State Geological Survey and helping out the commission with the geothermal program.
Great, Thomas.
Hi, Jessica. My name is Tomas Delgado. I work for the Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office, and I'm also a geography graduate student. I've been on the commission for nearly a year now. So, welcome.
Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace. I'm a professor at Millikan University, and I'm pretty new to the council as well, so I'm also learning things a bit and came in the pandemic during the Zoom world, so haven't even got to meet a few people in person yet, so welcome.
And Morgan.
I think Grace made a good point. We didn't get to welcome her, so welcome, Grace. It's so confusing in Zoom about how do we welcome people when we're not with them. It's confusing. And Jessica, welcome. My name is Morgan White. I'm the Associate Director for sustainability at facilities and services at the U of I Urbana-Champaign. And Jessica, I think you said you're an educator. Could you tell us where?
Yeah, so I've taught all over the state, grades 6 through 12. I've taught at Edison for 5 years, and this year I'm like the interim dean at 6th grade level. I'm at the Columbia building, so at Unit 4. So.
Great, thanks. I think that is everybody. I appreciate everybody for being here tonight. I know that this is not our regularly scheduled meeting time. I'm going to recognize Marcus, who's raising his hand. Sorry, I think I muted you. There you go.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Marcus Ritchie. I'm a planner with the City of Urbana and kind of to liaise between the Sustainability Advisory Commission and the rest of the city over at the city building, where Scott takes care of things formally and does liaise with the public. And it sounds like you can't hear me well.
Marcus, we were getting just a little bit of background noise from, I think, maybe behind you. And I think that that's okay. If you would like to send an email to Jessica, we'll give you her email address, just introducing yourself and your role at the city. I know that she and I have talked, and Scott as well. So you could kind of introduce yourself by email that way.
Good. Good to meet you.
Excellent.
I would love to be.
Thanks for joining tonight.
Because I don't know Marcus either.
Okay,
Good.
great.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, next on our agenda this evening is the staff report.
Good evening, Commission. First, some updates with Community Solar. Staff continue to work with solar developer Nexamp to recruit subscribers to the Urbana Community Solar Project on the closed landfill. We have some direct mail from Nexamp going out very soon. On geothermal, Urbana-Champaign has commenced with power hours this month, and information is available at geothermaluc.org. I am happy to report that we already have one geothermal installation under contract. We have another that is very nearly under contract, just the property owners determining some final options. And we have 9 more projects in the proposal development stage. So I think we are having a very good start to this program. We have a little bit of public engagement, staff speaking to urban sustainability program at the University of Illinois. Update from U-Cycle. U-Cycle is working on the curbside fall leaf collection this week. Leaf fall is very heavy and can be very challenging for 2 Packer trucks to complete some of the routes in a single day. Some of those routes are being finished up the next day, but we're confident we will have all of it collected by the end of the week. On occasion, we do a little bit of collection on Saturday if there are areas of the city we did not get to by Friday. Just a reminder that we collect paper bagged leaves, non-woody plant material on your U-Cycle collection day. No brush, branches, tree limbs, or garbage. Those items will result in your bag remaining at the curb. The collection weeks are here as well. We will have one more collection week in 2 weeks. Update on urban forest activities. The city has been awarded a grant from the Lumpkin Family Foundation to evaluate potential correlations in the spatial distribution of vacant tree sites, places where we someday would have identified that we might plant a tree in the right-of-way, canopy coverage, urban heat, and race and income. City Council will be considering acceptance of that grant this coming Monday. The next Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting would be December 12th at 7 p.m. in council chambers and or Zoom. And in the updated staff report, there is the proposed schedule for next year.
So thank you for all that work, Scott. I think that especially the tree grant is so awesome. I did notice something in the schedule that it looks like the dates still say 2020.
Oh, apologies. I did update the days and to make sure that I had the right, they're all Tuesday, but that's an error. So
it's weird. I haven't typed out 2021 much yet. It's weird.
Yeah. So the commission will need to move and approve a schedule, and the mover can say all these days with 2021.
Was there supposed to be one for November? A meeting for November?
So we always have an election day on that date, and this is a polling place. So we always end up canceling the meeting or moving it a third time. So, you know, what I've prepared is a proposal to cancel that meeting. I think
on a different topic. Okay, the next meeting, I don't think that's the 12th. That's a Saturday.
Oh,
I think,
sorry.
Is it supposed to be the first Tuesday? Right after?
First Tuesday, yeah.
So in 2 weeks?
Yep.
So that's December 1.
Sorry, December 1.
Okay. I thought maybe we were moving it because this one got moved, and then I was like, wait, that's a Saturday.
Let's come back to the schedule questions in a little bit here. I'd like to find out if any council members have any questions or comments about the other items that were in the staff report.
I do. I have a question for the next AMP, Community Solar. Do you know approximately like what the progress level is in terms of, and don't we have to get a certain, for it to be viable, they have to get a certain amount of subscribers? Is that correct?
The vendor has never expressed, you know, some minimum number of subscribers before they will start construction. Whether there is some minimum number or not, I don't know.
So I know that we have some guests in the audience, and I wonder if you could, you know, take a minute just to sort of describe the overall program, because it's through the Solar for All, right? So
sure.
I'm not sure if
So
Minnie already knows about it. Go ahead.
sure. We have through a procurement process, we have selected a vendor to develop a solar array on our closed landfill. The developer has secured incentives for a low-income community solar array on our closed landfill. They'll be the owner and operator and leaser of that space and that project. The city is the leasee, I guess, and they will be subscribing income qualified households, low and moderate income households, to be off takers for little chunks of the electricity that is produced by the array. The city building at the city of Urbana will also be an off taker of a large chunk of the electricity produced by the array.
And it's a much lower rate than conventional electricity.
Yes, the rate is 50% of the cost of energy from buying from Ameren for the income qualified households.
So it's a great deal. I'm saying this to the public at large. It's a great deal. You have to qualify based on your income level, but it is absolutely something that anyone who qualifies really ought to be signing up for to help themselves and help our community. Thanks. Thank you.
So I'm going to follow up with a question for a point of clarification. Scott, if you have the answer to this. I've seen someone from the community and
we can't hear you correctly. I don't know what happened, but it was like we can kind of hear you through Scott's microphone.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Now I hear you. Maybe
Okay.
we,
All right.
yeah.
So a member of the community asked the question, what is better, like Nexamp or Arcadia for solar, community solar? And then let me back up because I think that there's a little bit of confusion and I don't know how to clear this up yet. And I'm going to be looking for a little bit more information. Does Nexamp also have community solar projects that that residents can take advantage of who are not going to qualify for the Solar for All program?
So
In addition, okay.
Nexamp has a low-income community solar project in Urbana. They also have market rate community solar projects elsewhere in Illinois. So anyone in Ameren territory can sign up for any community solar subscription within Ameren territory. So folks in another county can subscribe, if they're income qualified, can subscribe to the City of Urbana's low-income community solar array. Folks in Urbana can sign up for market rate community solar array from Nexamp or other vendors that are located in other cities, provided that it is located in Ameren territory. Arcadia, I don't know if they have a.
I don't think that we would really have to necessarily go
they're
through
another.
right? But I think the question is another provider. And I was confused. And I think that one of the points that I want to figure out, and I look forward to speaking with a Nexamp representative soon, is when you call Nexamp, how are they identifying, will they be asking the questions to route Urbana residents or Champaign-Urbana residents to the right program based on income, especially if somebody wants to take advantage of the Solar for All program specifically?
My understanding is that if someone calls and may be income qualified for the low-income community solar, they're going to expend effort to put them in a low-income community solar subscription, in part because it is going to be more difficult to recruit subscribers from a narrower field, low and moderate income, and so it would behoove them to slot those folks into a low-income community solar subscription.
Okay, thank you for those clarifications. Are there any other questions or comments about the items in the staff report?
I have another one on the community solar. I know it's really hard to advertise those things, and especially pandemic, but I was wondering what we are doing to advertise those, especially just even like flyers or Facebook, and like if the SAC has a Facebook presence or things that we can share throughout other networks.
So we're using email marketing, we're using social media marketing. The vendor is going to be sending out direct mail. We're going to be sending out a specific mailing regarding our specific income qualified project to specific low-income census blocks. And so, and the vendor has their own marketing team as well.
Is there anything that we can share throughout our networks? You know what I mean? Like, nice, or that we could make. Maybe that's something that would be for the SAC to help with, maybe not, but it would be nice to be able to share that through like various Facebook messages or flyers at key places.
Absolutely. I can directly email everyone the graphics we have. And I can, and then also we're occasionally posting information about this opportunity on the city's Facebook pages. One of them specifically is called Sustainable Urbana, and so if you can repost those, that's fabulous.
Do you have an opinion on the student funds that Steve is asking about?
Okay, any other questions?
I had one question, Scott, about the urban forest item. the research that's going to be conducted, who would that be carried out by? Does it be like a collective of folks or specific division of the city? Or?
We're going to be using our existing tree inventory vendor. We have a software application that we use for internally focused tree inventory management. That software package also has a public-facing platform called urbana.mytreekeeper.com. And so we're going to be using that vendor. They have all of the experience and expertise to do spatial analysis, bring in multiple data sets, work with GIS, and they also will be able to post and publish the results from that study onto our publicly facing platform.
Great, thank you.
I just had one last question about the community solar. Do we know how many families have signed up for that, or is it like before that would be a thing we know? You know what I mean?
I haven't gotten a count, no.
Okay.
There is capacity for, depending on the size of the subscriptions, 300 to 600 households.
Great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I think that we can go back to the schedule for next year. Oh.
I move to
I'm gonna
schedule with 2021 on it.
one second. I'm gonna call on Marcus.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Not quite seamless.
The next AMP market rate program people can subscribe to in other areas, since there's not one here. Are their rates basically the same as Ameren?
So they are advertising a 10% lower price as compared to Ameren.
Okay, so I do not live in Urbana, but I would love to. I'm subscribed in our city's program, bulk purchase program, or whatever it's called. Is there any benefit if I signed for the city of Urbana? If I signed up for a NexAMP program, do you get like something for get people to subscribe, or does NexAMP, or is it Green Power or something where it might be actually better to sign up with NexAMP than with the bulk purchase program in my city?
So it's important to know that the choice between a community solar array subscription and municipal electric aggregation from one's city is an either or choice. You can't be on both at the same time.
Right.
So, in terms of that decision, one might consider the location of the project you're subscribing to, if that matters. One might consider if your existing municipal electric aggregation program is buying renewable energy credits to green that power supply.
Mm-hmm. But all of the NexAMP programs are solar, 100% locally produced?
Correct.
Okay. I would be guaranteed that power that I'm buying from them is 100% renewable.
Correct.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Morgan, I believe that you were going to make a motion.
Yes, I move to approve the proposed schedule as our schedule for meetings in 2021 as documented, except with the correction of saying 2021.
Is there a second?
I have a question. Do I second first or do I question first?
Second first, and then we open for discussion.
But I think you're not supposed to second if you're against it.
Okay, I will second. Feels like a card game
Okay.
now. Like a game. I don't know.
Any questions or discussion?
My question is, so we don't have a January meeting then either? No November or January?
Correct. That's what I've proposed here because it's so early in the month after Christmas holidays. We end up canceling or moving that meeting very often because there's a lot of folks who are still out of town.
I guess I was just thinking, I didn't know if we were interested in, because are we doing December 1st as our next meeting then? Because it just seems pretty soon. I didn't know if we wanted to even push that like back to the 8th because it's still not too close to Christmas and we're not meeting in January instead of having like 2 meetings so close, just to spread it out a little bit.
From the staff perspective, that's a decision up to the commission. It does get difficult to line up Zoom and then everyone's schedules on a different day, but we were able to do it this day after a couple tries. So that's certainly possible.
And I don't know that I have a formal motion, I guess just kind of gauging how people feel about it, just an idea to throw out there.
I'm fine either way. I don't know that there's need. I think we have enough to discuss and continue with that. From my perspective, having it on the 1st, it's not like we have to accomplish a specific thing. So having one on the 1st would be okay with me. But moving it to the 8th is fine with my schedule.
I'm also good either way.
I'd like to bring the discussion back to just the 2021 SAC schedule, and then we'll discuss the December meeting.
So I second to do the 2021 dates, just changing the year. Is that right? Okay. Sorry.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion? Okay, then I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote for the 2021 SAC schedule. Will Scott please call the roll?
One second. Tomas Delgado,
Yes.
Madeline Garbaz, Stacy Gloss,
Yes.
Andrew Stump,
Yes.
Morgan White.
You're muted. Again.
Yes.
Grace Wilkin,
Yes.
Jessica Lemkel.
Yes.
On the December meeting, if folks are in favor of it, I can endeavor to find another date. I wouldn't just set another date because there are other calendars we're going to have to consult to see if we can get, the room and Zoom. The state statute regarding electronic remote meetings at present does require one staff person and one person from the commission to physically be in the room. So we have to be able to book the room as well as Zoom.
I would suggest if that's the case that we just go ahead and stick with December 1. Because schedules are going to be changing a lot for me over the next few weeks, and it could just end up being difficult. I don't know, Grace, you had suggested postponing it, but I think in this case it's probably okay to just keep it. What do you?
I don't feel super passionately about it. I was just thinking about if, it's like we're going to meet in 2 weeks and then not for 2 months, just if we could like split that difference a little, but the 1st is fine for me as well.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments or questions around meeting on the 1st? And again, that will be at 7 p.m. instead of 5. Okay, not hearing any concerns on that, we will keep the schedule as is for December. So our next Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting will be on December 1st at 7 p.m. By Zoom for most of you and for council chambers for one of us. Thank you. Okay, the next agenda item that we have this evening, we have set aside 30 minutes to begin discussing the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion goals. We have, just as a little bit of background, we spent the past few months working on some changes to our bylaws and kind of thinking about informing the Sustainability Advisory Commission about these goals, and thinking about and recognizing that by putting a statement about justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion into the bylaw specifically did not mean that we had discussed or included any goals for action items that we would want to propose for the SAC to take in addressing those new bylaws statements. So we have 30 minutes set tonight for just a kind of facilitated or moderated discussion between us to start brainstorming and to get some ideas down on paper about what some goals should look like for our community, how we are honoring as SAC what justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion would look like in Urbana. Am I allowed to make like a, no, I can't. I was gonna do like a shared Google Doc. Can we do a Zoom whiteboard? You think we can do a Zoom whiteboard and people can use the annotate button at the top of their screen if they would like to start putting some ideas onto that Zoom whiteboard? So let me do a screen share for whiteboard. Okay, and then at the top of your screens, you should be able to see, it may be in the drop-down menu for more, an option for something called Annotate. Once you are in Annotate, it will pop up a ribbon that gives you some options to draw or to make text. So I would just have everybody, if you are able to go ahead and do that, we can have the discussion and talk through it, but also give folks the opportunity to write down on the whiteboard, kind of all at the same time in different spots, some ideas around the JEDI goals. If folks would like to work on this for a few minutes, kind of quietly, we can come back and we can discuss after.
Do you know if there's a way to change the size of the font? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that before in text. I think the only thing that, yep. So what you do is you click on the T for text, and then before you start typing anything on the whiteboard, you go to Format. And under the Format tab, you can change the color of your text. You can also make your font bold, italicized, or changed off of the font size of 24 to something smaller or larger.
Sorry, I'm being a Zoom rookie. I haven't used whiteboard and I'm talking while muted, and anyway.
It looks like you're figuring it out.
That's all I got, but I was hoping I could go back and like edit my text box, but it looks like once you click off it, it's set and you can't like go back.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Anyway, that's what I got for
You
now.
can, okay.
I'll mute and stop being a Zoom rookie.
I'm also being a rookie over here and just got Jess sitting out there doing nothing. And it's about, I think that's all that's going to be in that box. So sorry, y'all.
No, I think you can make another box, click below it, and then do it again. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I just made a new text box and you can just keep adding to that, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything that would let me change the font size. Stacy, big words.
Tomas, I hope you were able to copy that.
I'm getting it sorted out. Sorry.
Okay. And then, Andy, are you still on the call? And I didn't see yours come onto the page.
Hello?
I haven't seen yours on the page.
It's at the top of the green.
I got
it. I was covered by a bar.
I got caught in the corner there, so I had to go over this side.
Nope, it's all good. It was just covered up on my screen.
Okay.
So maybe just a couple more minutes, or folks can let me know when they're about done and ready to kind of share out. Okay, about 2 more minutes.
I think I've got most of my ideas that I'll have for now.
Maybe 30 more seconds for anybody that's still working on it. Does anybody need more time? All right. Now I would like for folks to kind of share them. There are a lot of words and great ideas on the screen that have been shared. I will work with Jason and Scott here to make sure that we are able to preserve the whiteboard. But what I would like to do is have members volunteer to just go through their lists kind of out loud and to share their ideas with the rest of the group. Won't call on people, I'll just let volunteers go ahead. Would anyone like to share first?
I can go first.
Thanks. Thanks, Jess.
So, yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like, and this is the hardest thing, right? Like getting communication out about all of the amazing stuff, right? And also like, I love the idea, and not to already be connecting to other people's ideas, but Morgan said about getting input, right? Just opening the dialogue. So I just think, yeah, figuring out ways to really get it out there, I think is probably the biggest thing. One idea I have for that is involving the school district. There's, I mean, ample spaces in a school where this type of work can be happening. Teachers would be so excited to invite in like creative lessons and learning experience for students, because honestly, sometimes those just don't happen with everything else that they have to teach and stuff. So I think that could be really cool, involving, like, just really empowering our youth, because they are our future and all of that stuff, to engage in this environmental work and just fight for environmental justice, really. The other thought that I had, we have a bus stop at the corner outside of our house, and we often, even sometimes have people sit up under our awning out there if it's raining, or we've invited them in our house before. I think there would be plenty of people around Urbana that would be open to having some sort of basic bus stop kind of built out there. My husband and I talked about doing it ourselves, but it's also probably gonna be kind of pricey, and we could have a mini library there, mini food pantry thing, and some recycling. The availability of recycling spots around the city are pretty minimal, and especially in the spaces where those are needed. So that's just a basic one that I was thinking about. In addition to those, we have a lot of community gardens happening around. I know the Solidarity Garden kind of got going during the pandemic, and I think just spreading that work and having potential mini gardens around and getting that into people's homes and on their properties, I think would be really cool. And then finally, connecting back to the students, just really empowering them to be knowledgeable about how to create a clean and healthy community and learning or living environment and all of that stuff. I think that is, once we can, get to the students, that's also getting to the adults in some way. So it would be cool. That's the gist of my ideas.
Thank you.
Stacy, do you think we ought to go into a dialogue about them now, or just have each person describe theirs so we can go through what's here? And maybe
So we just set aside a half hour for tonight for brainstorming purposes. So I would like to hold any discussion specifically about any particular idea or proposal, because we could end up going pretty deep with those. Yeah. I think that we have about until 6:10, so another 15 minutes for sharing out the different ideas between the members. That may leave just a couple minutes for discussion if we want to go there, just about what we'll do with this and what some of those next steps are. And that's a little bit, I'll admit that's kind of a work in progress. So I will be open to ideas as well on how we, continue the conversation and make some decisions.
I think that's
thanks, Morgan, for bringing that up. Mm-hmm.
So I'll do mine real quick. It's really important that whatever we do, don't tell people what they need from us. We need to ask them what they need from us. We do have to make sure there's some general concepts that make sense. So, and we also, you're welcome to have a seat at the table, but it's our table in our space and our, this group that exists in the institutional city. So I think it's really important that may we attend one of your events. We're actually asking to be invited to their table, whatever, whoever it is. And the community, I say various community groups. I think it would range from a church to a Rotary to a club or a company or, all kinds of different groups. But I think I said share a fact sheet because we don't need to list all the programs. We just want them to have it. So it's a PDF that gets emailed to them or something, or posted on a wall somewhere, but that what we're doing is really mostly to listen. I think that's vital. That's all I got. And I love the other ideas.
I could go next. So Morgan, I think thank you. I think that was a really great reminder about kind of getting invited to the table or joining others rather than telling people, what they need. So I did have kind of a lot of question marks in my list here, because I think that some of my question marks get towards, is this needed? Would there or could there be interest? And recognizing the partnerships and the development work for some of these ideas. So just because I've kind of brought it up before, expanding accessibility to programs for compost bins and rain barrels. We do a sale every single year. I would like to see a program that creates some sort of parity for income qualified families so they can also have these resources. Figuring out how to get engaged on plan development for sustainable and affordable neighborhoods. That's a really big stretch for me. That's not something that I know a whole lot about, but it's something that I would definitely like to learn more about and see how we can continue that discussion. And I think that being part of the comprehensive plan and working towards providing input on the comprehensive plan is a good way to engage there. I like the All About You newsletters that we get from the city of Urbana. I'm sort of interested in brainstorming on this idea about like an About Your City program for school children at the elementary school age. Again, big question marks there. Like, I have no idea if that's something that principals would welcome or want in their schools when they're trying to meet all of these other goals that they have. But just a way to get kids sort of, even if they had to, even if they watched a video, maybe we could make it more exciting about how city work kind of gets done. I don't know. When I was really, really little, I was really into waste haulers and like watching the trucks go by and things like that. So it would be really cool to kind of get some of that in schools, creating kind of these education and touch points around the city services that are provided. Not only is that showing or possibly showing youth possible jobs and job avenues for future when we think about workforce development, but also just to like, I don't know, it starts civic training kind of early and for everybody. And if we can make that more accessible to all, that would be great. One thing, Tomas, we could discuss this a little bit further, having more periodic updates from the township as like a township report at the SAC and find ways to support the township and one another through that work. Working with the library on having sustainability weeks, but make sure that sustainability and environment and agricultural programs feature diverse leaders and diverse individuals who are part of that. It's something that I read in an article today was like how white the agrarian movement has become for farmers markets and things like that. But yeah, Hispanic folks and Black folks have been doing this like way longer and didn't get any recognition for that until this point. And so that's, me part of my own path of learning and things like that. So I would love to see the library have more focus and create additional opportunities for diversity in programming, especially in sustainability. And then just on energy and energy programs, expanding outreach efforts with local partners on community solar and other energy efficiency programs.
So, thank you. I could go next. My points were about accessibility, as we kind of talked about in the bylaws too, of like language and income and gender and technology and ability levels and all that kind of stuff. Tree planting I had just because that's a nice tangible step that it seems like Scott's done a lot of work that we're already making way on. That's an important thing as far as like climate resilience and heat islands and all sorts of stuff. I would love to see some of our, inequity be addressed if that's the case from all the research, which I imagine it will be. Also thinking about just like infrastructure resilience. I'll talk more about in the commission, but just thinking about like climate change and environmental social justice, even like emergency disconnections, natural disasters, just kind of what is our energy resilience structure in our community and who would have their power maintained or restored first, and just kind of how does all that work. I don't know if we're willing to dive as far into things like the criminal justice system, but for me, I think that's definitely something that falls into the social aspect of sustainability. And we have some pretty blatant statistics of racism in Urbana criminal justice system and policing and sentencing. And I think for me, that's a really important aspect of the social part of sustainability. Then I was also thinking in terms of LEED stuff. Done some like LEED, green associate certification. I haven't done the neighborhood one yet, but that sounds like a really cool one. And there's a lot of stuff out there. Even if we didn't have Urbana like fully certified as a LEED green community or certain neighborhoods, I think we can still incorporate a lot of those different principles into our overall planning and zoning and connectivity. And there's just a lot of good kind of principles in there about green neighborhoods and communities in LEED. I guess that also kind of falls into the next one of like zoning and food apartheid or food deserts, and community gardening and stuff that's been brought up, as well as those services within our city or other existing entities, kind of like people talked about working with the township and homelessness services and assistance programs with utilities or all sorts of things that are a desperate need for the community. And how that also can relate to our comprehensive plan and budget, and kind of how the city prioritizes our economic resources is how we prioritize kind of our values, in a sense, to me. And I think it's like community listening sessions would be great. It sounds like a lot of people are, wanting that community input from our commission. And I think that some well-advertised listening sessions would be a good step in working towards that.
Thank you. Grace, I'm not sure what happened to your name on the form. I don't know if it got accidentally deleted, but if you wanted to put it back in on the spot where you were working on it, you could do that. Just didn't mean to have it erased.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, Andy or Tomas?
I can go. What's great is that there's just a lot of overlap between a lot of the ideas we've shared, and what I had listed are things that I'm particularly interested in, but also that I see the SAC already sort of doing in some way, shape, or form. So you're kind of just seeing us continue down that road and probably amplify it as well. So the first thing I'd listed was amplifying community knowledge, and what I meant by that was to give citizens an opportunity to maybe share stories as they're related to sustainability, to get a sense of how certain communities within Urbana have approached sustainability, rather than sort of a sort of teaching dynamic in which we're educating the public about sustainability, getting a sense how other communities have received or practiced sustainability within their homes and within their communities. So really just uplifting current practices that may not be as amplified as others. The second thing I listed was just identifying the intersections between sustainability and race, gender, and socioeconomic class. And that's obviously a very broad one, but something that we could at least devote some time to learning more about, having maybe even some guest lecturers come to speak on these things who have a bit more experience studying those intersections would be great. The third thing I have listed is just to address housing accessibility, as housing justice is one of the biggest needs within our county and our community here. And there is quite a bit of overlap and intersections between sustainability and housing and security. So I think it's really important that as our group sort of identify those intersections and work on ways to involve our principals in supporting that effort. And then linked into housing accessibility and just housing as a topic, energy justice, and how energy security is a huge need in our community right now, and how that ties into just housing insecurity as a whole. And then lastly, partnering with community organizations to support or learn from their sustainability missions. You know, I'm thinking of the Urbana Park District Advisory Commission and learning on efforts that the Park District does, or so many other groups, you know, more community-based groups, and how they have organized around sustainability. So providing maybe a platform for them to speak on their work, or joining them in their meetings to some degree. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, I think most of mine are covered already, so I won't, don't really have any more comments other than that. So.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share for right now. Actually,
Can we?
I'm trying to save this. I've saved it.
It'll save automatically too.
Okay, and I did a screenshot. Go ahead, Morgan.
Can somebody, and it will, is there ability to get someone to sort of type this into a document and then send it out and we can all think about it, maybe gather questions we have or thoughts we have to discuss at the next meeting?
I'm gonna, that's a great idea. I'm gonna pause just for a second. I saw that Minnie Pearson from the NAACP raised her hand for a second. So I'm gonna see if she has a comment.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, hi Minnie, thanks for joining.
Okay, these are wonderful ideas, and I did hear you say that you wanted to get more community input. And looking at all of the wonderful ideas you have, and you said you want to invite people to come to the table. A good way, I think, to get the word out to organizations and other community people is to do a survey. We can do a survey where you let them know what your mission and bylaws and constitution and things that you're trying to do, even some of the things that you have listed here, and send them out, you know, because of this pandemic, we got to do mostly email and things like that. But if you send them out to the different key players in the community, you can get a lot of these things, even the school districts. I think it's a wonderful idea. What I've seen as I've moved through the district, because I was a teacher at Dr. Howard for almost 30 years. And so kids handling the waste, or, you know, where to put it, recycling, you know, separating, things like that. But if you send out a survey to all of the organizations and give them say for instance, a heading and ask them for their input, they feel like they have a voice in how you are, you know, kind of governing this commission.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And when we think about policing and we think about criminal justice, we're in the phase now where we're thinking about reform. I mean, we're not ever saying defund, but we are reforming because we're, you know, looking at systemic racism and restructuring to be more inclusive. So when we think about that, and alternatives to things that have not been working, so let's change our paradigm that kind of way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Yep, and I would definitely like to follow up with you after the meeting, and maybe after the meeting that's happening in 2 weeks, where we start to put together and figure out, okay, we have all of these ideas. A survey is a wonderful idea. How do we start to prioritize some of the items on the list? Because it's all really important stuff, and there is a lot of intersectionality between the issues, as you've pointed out, so thank you. Morgan, you were saying about what's next.
My suggestion was that we have someone type this up and then send it to the commission members for us to review and consider, and maybe make notes to ourselves about questions or key points we'd like to share at the next meeting.
Great, thank you. I think that is a great next step. And between Scott and I, we'll discuss how to best handle that and get those out to the group.
If folks can copy and paste their own notes and email them, that would make it faster.
I don't think we can do that on the whiteboard.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
we'll
took a
type them.
screenshot of it, and I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, they're already typed. I don't know if anyone needs it in a Word document in particular, but I feel like I can just look at the screenshot of them. Unless there's some way I don't know about, but I don't think I can go back and copy what I already typed in there.
Let me see. So
You can save it at the top.
I have saved it at the top. If everybody wants to save it at the top and then kind of write it up for themselves and email that back to Scott, that would be great. There is a way, it would take me a number of minutes because there is a way that I think that the moderator is able to actually edit all of these, but that would take like 10 minutes. And so what I'm cringing because I'm afraid if I close it, then it'll go away. I do have a screen share of it though, and I have it saved. So it won't be too difficult to recreate that, share out the whiteboard with the group, as well as start putting these things either into spreadsheet sort of format or Word document. And I will consider if anyone would like to contact me about how you would like to do some prioritization for this, just in terms of like systematizing the process in some way. I'll be considering ways to do that, and it will be on our agenda for the December 1st meeting for us to continue the conversation. Any other final thoughts or comments on this work? And then I am gonna stop the share.
So it sounds like we'll all think about this and then have that kind of further discussion on our next agenda.
Yep. All right, thanks everybody. Okay. The next item on our agenda tonight was a 5-minute discussion on determining commission agenda items. And I do have some notes on that to share with folks that people can ask questions about. So for agenda setting, members of the commission can request agenda items in a couple of different ways. In general, Scott and I email commission members ahead of meetings to request agenda items from commissioners. Sometimes we might forget to reach out a week ahead. Either way, you may email the chair a week or so before the scheduled meeting to request an agenda item to be included. The second way to request an agenda item is to make a motion for an additional agenda item to be added to the agenda during the regularly scheduled meeting. For items to be added during a meeting, the chair will follow Robert's rules. The motion to add the item needs to be seconded, discussed briefly if necessary, and then voted on by the full commission. The chair will recognize requests for agenda items that are included in advance. Requests should be brief, but include information about the idea that you want to include. So for example, do we need to think about having a speaker come and present at the commission, and who would that speaker be? Or is the idea something that requires more research and more consideration, perhaps before the next meeting? Just due to time constraints, sometimes we can't include all the agenda items that are requested, but we'll make efforts to make sure that agenda requests are taken under advisement and considered for future meetings. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Do you want to, and maybe I'm so sorry if I missed it when you were just reading that, but do you want us to include how much time we anticipate we need for the agenda item?
That would be really helpful. Yes, thank you. I didn't say that, but that is actually helpful for meeting planning purposes.
Is there any other certain kind of criteria, or just a matter of emailing on time and expecting to have enough time during the meetings?
I think that basically covers it. Are there other criteria that should be considered that anyone wants to have considered? Maybe like the one thing I'm thinking of in advance is just relevancy to commission work. I recognize that we have added a lot of JEDI goals at this point, which means that we're sort of really broadening right now, and we have the opportunity to really broaden sort of our concept of sustainability and what that means in our community. So if it's possible to make the connection to kind of sustainability and to the topics, it can help me make those connections a little bit better. I have a background kind of in energy and energy efficiency more specifically. And so if it's a planning issue, or if it's a school issue, or something else, I might not always or immediately make that connection. So it can be really helpful for me if you want to kind of provide that information in advance. And of course, we can always talk about it as well.
I was about to say the same thing that you just said about it. I really think that, just in terms of what the agenda items are, they need to be in the scope of the commission. So same thing. But the other thing is that ultimately it's up to the chair about what's on the agenda, except if there's a motion and we go through that aspect, right? So, given all the different things that we're going to cover, part of her role is, and with Scott's assistance, is to hone it into what are the priorities for the 2 hours that we have, and how do we keep it within the 2 hours or less.
That's correct. And I have heard from a number of commissioners that they would like to keep the meetings under 2 hours. We have gone over recently, especially when we start meeting at 7 o'clock. It gets to be really late when we start going at 9:30, 9:45.
We might also want to decide on like a certain meeting is on a certain subject.
Yep, we could do that as well.
I'm planning ahead.
Something that Scott and I have been working on and trying to work into the schedule, and again, it's not always perfect, but is if we are going to have a presentation from like an external entity, that one, we're going to do a better job of asking the presenters how much time they need, and if it seems like it's long, we're going to ask them to kind of limit their time for their presentation. And then secondly would be that we're going to try and have only one external presentation per meeting if there is an external presentation that's going to be had. This is just one of the ways that we think that we can keep the meetings to 2 hours or less. Okay, any other questions on agenda setting?
Is there a set time you would like proposed agenda items before the meeting? Is there a cutoff like a week before, 2 weeks before, or was there a time like the minutes go out, a week before? Is there kind of a deadline we're trying to hit?
So typically we have a Tuesday evening meeting. And so to meet the Open Meetings Act posting requirements, I typically send the agenda. I have the agenda posted midday Friday and email the packet Friday afternoon. So you want to start sort of backtracking in time from there. Probably 2 weeks before is maybe a good cutoff, but I haven't considered that and really thought about, a hard and fast cutoff.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Unless Jess, were you going to say something? You look like it. Nope. Good. All good. All righty. All right. Next on our agenda item this evening was a presentation from Grace as part of a commission report.
Was there anything under unfinished business or no? Just that being.
I have that's actually above unfinished business.
Oh, mine.
But maybe I'm looking at, or maybe I messed up, Billy. I see what happened. It actually appears twice on here.
I think the older version of the agenda then.
I may have that.
I see 8 unfinished business and then 9 as report of commissioners. I'm fine either way, but I was just looking at this updated agenda.
I don't have any unfinished business to include in this meeting tonight, so we can move on to the commissioner's report.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks. So I would like to do the report back we had scheduled for last meeting about the Faith in Place Green Team Summit that was actually back in August. I've got some of my notes here because it's been a while since then. But the general gist of this conference was a lot of the intersections and a lot of what Tomas was talking about too, of that intersectionality of COVID, climate change, and racism / social justice, and how they all kind of interact and compound together in the kind of times that we're in. Some of my notes, I had some good quotes. They said like justice and addressing social inequities has to be the center of action against climate change and natural disaster. And I thought those were really great things to make sure that we all kind of keep together, and about, the disproportional impacts on people of color, elderly, low income, people with different ability levels, that as we're all facing these global crises, that it impacts some harder than others, and just remembering to kind of bundle those together. They talked about some interesting things too about, those kind of secondary increases of or consequences of climate change, with increased pollution, meaning increased air particulates, which increases the chances of COVID-19 mortality rates, and just kind of how all of these things are connected. And I thought that was a really interesting one. They talked about indigenous groups, having the highest death rates in the US because of heat strokes, COVID, all sorts of things. They even talked about things like the increasing climate change and temperatures can increase disease vectors with insects, and like more Zika, Lyme disease, malaria, all sorts of things. They talked about kind of the importance of timely alerts and like evacuation notices for floods or other natural disasters, and how that even, those changes in water distribution of like droughts and floods impact us here in Illinois, where we've seen decreased yields in fields from different water distributions. And then we also kind of focused a little more on like regional and local issues, but that was kind of the main gist of the session that I wanted to report back to you all. Another session that I did was Energy Master Planning Workshop that I don't remember the full organization. It was sent out through this group. I think maybe Stacy sent out the invite. Was it Army Corps of Engineers? I don't know, but it was some interesting groups. But the gist of that one was about energy infrastructure and that resilience as far as the energy grid goes. And it got me really thinking more about Urbana electricity grid. I did my graduate work at Eastern in Charleston, and I feel like I learned a lot about their they don't have Ameren, they have like a cooperative utility provider. And so we worked with them really closely on like the backup generators for the hospital and for these certain factories and kind of like that electric infrastructure of the community. And I just realized that I really don't know what that is for Urbana. You know, I imagine the hospitals and a few things are on maybe a separate even microgrid. I have no idea. Ameren does a lot with smart grids and microgrids. And yeah, just kind of wondering what's our energy infrastructure and backup system and how all of that works. And if we can also tie it back then to also having a more equitable distribution and, you know, which neighborhoods are kind of have the oldest infrastructure, are more likely to have their power lost, get their power back on last, just all those kinds of questions if we think about dealing with more extreme weather and climate and natural disasters. The third thing I want to talk about was utility shutoffs, just kind of wrapping back to, we had talked about some in the last meeting. There was a resolution to City Council that was passed just asking for the council to encourage the governor to address this issue and asking their legal team to look into it on an Urbana level. It sounds like there's still some kind of confusion, unclarity about what Urbana can do. Right now, people are pointed towards the utility companies directly to request for assistance or not having their utilities shut off immediately. But I think there's still definitely a greater need and a potential of maybe emergency orders could do that moratorium, and maybe asking, you know, on a state level, increased LIHEAP assistance, increased kind of forgiveness or payback plans, but definitely looking in the long term. And then also wondering too, I'm just wondering how that can maybe play into our budget or planning, you know, between the city and the township, and like where are these kinds of resources that could help people to recover from a really bad situation that people are in, especially if at the end of this time they've got, you know, a year's worth of utility back pay. And then the fourth one was about food waste composting in Urbana. We've had some conversations with Scott and people at the city and the Landscape Recycling Center, and there is a possibility of doing some food waste composting at the Landscape Recycling Center that could have an economic benefit and incentive for the private waste haulers. And then also that benefit to consumers as the grocery stores or restaurants, or maybe U of I dining halls, can separate out their food waste and reduce their landfill trash and have a separate food waste pickup. And I don't know what other details I'm okay to go into on that. I'll stop.
Just a point of clarity on that. The food waste from the dining halls does not go to the landfill. It gets taken to the sanitary district, and they're transitioning. It's going in one way, but the new way is going to be helping supply their renewable power at the sanitary district. There's other food waste around campus though, like leftover apple cores from lunches, etc.
Cool. Sounds like that's maybe not as known, because I have a lot of U of I students talking to me about composting and they seem to not be aware of that, which I was not, so that's awesome. And the sanitary district is okay dealing with all of that waste because it's helping their energy thing. I'm guessing they put it in the anaerobic digester.
So, I mean, our researchers started the conversation. We had students working on what was the capacity, collaborating with Dining and the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center, which is on campus in the Prairie Research Institute, and then also directly collaborating with the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District. And what we're doing is grind to energy. It's chopping up the food waste from the dining halls and then carting it in a sort of like what comes out of a porta potty, carting it over to the sanitary district, dumping it there, and then they are running it through their digester, and they are benefiting from the clean energy that they're collecting. They have lots of capacity in the digester. I don't know what their operational capacity is for expanding that system right now, and we are in the process of shifting to that. What was previously happening, though, was also not going to the landfill. It was also going to the sanitary district, but through a different system that's being replaced. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm glad to learn that. I'm surprised too because I've been talking to a lot of people at the University of Illinois and no one's mentioned that. So that's
Well,
great.
if you want to know what we're doing for sustainability on campus, talk to me.
Awesome, definitely.
Well, and then there's also a discussion on getting building an anaerobic digester for the farms, possibly.
Yes, that would be with the future dairy facility, which because of COVID is probably a good 10 years away. But also there's manure that could go into the on-campus digester if we eventually have one. But in the meantime, we've been looking at, or we're just starting to talk about actually windrow composting for manure. So that's an exciting idea as well.
Awesome. Then we'll focus on grocery stores and restaurants and not the university. That's great to hear. They're already dealing with that.
Oh, no, the university wants a solution because dining is only a portion of our food waste. That's what I'm trying to say. It's dining is good. It's all the other stuff.
Could you take that other stuff to the sanitary district?
We don't have a collection process at this time.
Yeah, that seems more of a university thing in my understanding than like a private waste hauler thing, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's a good discussion, but it definitely needs a lot more time and teasing out all the pieces.
So Grace, I can connect you, going back to your previous conversation about Ameren, I can connect you with the two people that are in town that work at their technology center.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know if that was also like a general thing for the SAC having any interest in, or if the city has any kind of, mapping or understanding of that, or if we were doing educational stuff of like about your city, like how does our energy grid work? And yeah, I guess I know Emory does have that smart technology center there. They do have that microgrid with their windmill and battery backup and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know like what essential services or neighborhoods are really connected to that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely something I'm personally interested in learning. And I didn't know if, I guess there was a general broader interest or that information already available.
Yeah, I mean, I could reach out to them and maybe give a presentation to us.
That'd be awesome. And maybe for the public too, maybe we could even, condense that down if there's not like a public facing version of something like that.
Yeah, I met their outreach person. So there's actually a person could do that. That's not a problem.
But I don't know that we have the information. I mean, I've never seen the information about in the city, which areas have the, maybe even just like which areas get power outages more often, right? Is there an outage because the infrastructure is old or like it's not being taken care of as well in various spaces or something like that? I don't know that at all. And I think that'd be very interesting to see. I don't know if it's public, but I mean, there's the microgrid and the research park. That's one sort of section of Ameren, that's own little department. And then there's what's happening in our community at large. But I think your outreach contact probably could help get that as well.
Because they just upgraded like the regional system. They just built a system across the state, and then they tied the Bonneville district into that recently. So.
Well, and the other thing though is when people talk about energy resiliency beyond geothermal solutions, one of the core is just, do you have backup power? And usually backup power is a really nasty diesel, I say nasty for the environment, diesel generator, loud, not clean stuff. And I think that's sort of the solution. That's probably, I know it's in several places on campus. It's probably throughout the community. I don't know if there are any places in our town that have other backup solutions. There's some research about sort of clean energy storage that could be applied, but it's not I doubt that there's any around. And even, so I want to ask a question, maybe Scott knows, if the Solar Urbana-Champaign ever put in some batteries. I mean, my understanding was most people did not go with battery backups or battery storage.
I don't I don't recall doing a battery sale through Solar Urbana-Champaign. It's one of the things that we get prices for and offer, but I don't recall us ever having a battery sale.
Okay. And I think that also people sort of think, oh, I've got solar on my roof, so if the grid goes down, I can still have power, but that's really, it doesn't work that well, because if you don't have battery, then you have the ups and downs, and so it's not an automatic solution just to have a solar panel.
I'm going to remind folks that we have in Urbana 2 representatives that live in Urbana who work for the Citizens Utility Board. This conversation to me really solidifies for me that how much I wish that we had an organized sort of renewables, energy efficiency, advocacy-based organization to provide this type of education that's paid to do this type of research for the community. I am supportive of having presentations at the SAC. There are groups like the Champaign County Sustainability Network, the CCNet, that gets a wider audience at their lunchtime meetings that happen the third Thursday of every month. And that would also be a fantastic place to schedule some of these discussions as well. Morgan?
Just what the group, you're talking about a group, it'd be nice if we had a group that, I thought you said like a nonprofit advocacy, and then you said that gets paid to such and such, and what sort of?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So like we have like Prairie Rivers Network, right, in Champaign-Urbana that focuses on rivers and water issues.
NCC.
CUB exists, CUB, right? Citizens Utility Board exists. And I think that that's definitely an opportunity and a conduit for us to partner with them for more local presentations on energy justice, renewables, and grid questions. Definitely an interest of mine to bring multiple partners together on this, to bring Ameren together, to give presentations like Andy had asked, or maybe it was you, Morgan, who asked about like shut off, like if there are particular like districts or areas in Champaign-Urbana that are more prone to outages and things like that. Like I have no idea how you get that information other than seeing if it's already provided through the Illinois Commerce Commission or to make the request for it. But like, yeah, all of these things are super interesting and all open up like a really, really long, to me, very interesting discussion. And so if you have very pointed, specific questions that we can answer and break down into smaller chunks of time, 15-minute presentations for the SAC, that's an opportunity. I think there are also opportunities like with CCNet, you get a whole 45 minutes to an hour to have a presentation. So to work with some of the CCNet leaders to bring these types of discussions and presentations to the wider community.
Yeah, and Grace, I think it was a really, really good idea, but we could also look at, through our efforts and interest, hosting or creating some sort of like afternoon workshop. And I think also the university has a lot of capacity to host a workshop through the Institute for Sustainability, Energy, and Environment. And so we could reach out to them. I'm with them, I'm a liaison to them, but as a SAC, we could reach out and ask if they would host something specifically for the community, as opposed to for researchers and student engagement. If we define what it needs to cover. And I also thought about that, and I mean, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association has been very, very helpful, so they could provide some of that knowledge too.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments on the presentation? Okay, thank you, Grace. Okay, are there any announcements? I have one. We still have one open seat on the Sustainability Advisory Commission. And there is a website to apply to become a member of the SAC on the urbanaillinois.us website as well. More information about the Sustainability Advisory Commission can be found on the boards site that's part of the urbanaillinois.us website. If you go to commissions and boards, you can get the link for the Sustainability Advisory Commission. Any other announcements?
I have one.
Go ahead.
So Scott was talking about the geothermal Urbana-Champaign program that is being rolled out, and there are geo power hours coming up basically every week for the next 2 or 3 months. And we had one today, it's Thursday, right? Today at CCNet. And the next one is hosted by my department, Facilities and Services, on the 1st, December 1, right before our currently scheduled SAC meeting. And then there's the following up in the following years, months too. That's it.
Thank you. I don't know who needs to send what to who, if we can include just the invite to the December 1st meeting. I don't know if that goes in the meeting minutes or out, or just be sure we put it on like the Sustainable Urbana site, however that works, so we can make sure that folks are attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with no further business before the SAC this evening, I adjourn this meeting. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.